You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. You're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. You found good in abundance. You've tuned in purposely, positively, and conscientiously to the Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, because you know that on this show, we work with the three fundamentals of life. When you use these three fundamentals, you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier. And that's why you tuned in, because you care the most, the entire world, about you, which is great, because when you become the best you make the world a better place. And that's why on this show, the three fundamentals, and right now I just want to urge everybody to understand something. We have passed two wonderful milestones. Number one, we have over 375,000 weekly listeners. Right now, you're joined by over 375,000 people around the world who also tune in because they care the most in the entire world about themselves and becoming the best possible self. And we've also, as of January 11th, 2024, surpassed 5 million downloads. So that's a big tribute to you, everybody listening. And we urge you to do one thing. Share this with 5 people. That's it. 5 people. I didn't say 50 or 100. Hey, you want to do that? That's okay. But share with 5 people and give us a good ranking on wherever you listen to this particular podcast, because it makes a difference. We're here to serve. We're here to help. And it does help. People tell me weekly how much they benefit from the information, the guests, and especially the T word, the transformation. Let's jump right in. The 3 fundamentals of life, of course, are, number one, life. Your life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, you go MAD. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym that stands for make a difference. Lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in life. And the third fundamental is to uncover the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simplest example. Ask anybody, what does www stand for? Invariably, they'll tell you to do with the internet. Now, factually speaking, they're correct. However, in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, www stands for what a wonderful world. And of course, a big tip of the hat to Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, for enabling that song, What a Wonderful World, to go viral and not just touch tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people around the planet. And whenever you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, what do you do right away? You can't help you smile. Now, smile is one of the most important words you're going to internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life, because SMILE is a great acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. That's right, seeing miracles in life every day. Now, oftentimes when I'm doing in-person events, recently I did one, we had 1,172 people in the audience, a lot of energy, a lot of hugging, a lot of great stuff. And I'm telling the story about Barry Shore, and I'm talking about seeing miracles in life every day. And some people raise their hands and say, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours where I haven't seen any miracles. And I asked them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I could barely do that. Do you have water to drink? Do you have food to eat, place to sleep? Do you have family, you have friends? Every single one of those is a miracle. And what's the proof? Simplest proof. 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or you're listening, you didn't. Therefore, you have an obligation to live life to the full, to live exuberantly. And you're going to hear that from our amazing guest today. And I'm deeply, deeply honored and humbled to have Peter Nolan back with us. He is not just a perennial, but comes sometimes twice a year, so 3 times a year. And people love listening to him because he's real, he's in business, he knows what's going on, because he does put his money where his mouth and mind are, and he makes things happen. And it's really important to speak to somebody who's deeply involved in business, and because business is the engine that drives the world. It looks like right now that it's war, but it's not. It's business. Okay, we're going to be talking, Peter, in just a few minutes. And right now, I just want to mention to everybody, our new listeners, and thank you for always recommending to your family and friends to have more people come and visit with us. The simple story of Barry Shore. Barry Shore, me, standing up in the morning, hale and hearty, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, and that evening being in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed from my neck down, quadriplegic, they call it. And it was not from an automobile accident and not a spinal injury. It was a rare disease that took over my body I never heard of the day before, caused me to be completely paralyzed. I could only communicate by blinking my eyes. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was 2 years in a hospital bed, my own home, 4 years in a wheelchair. I had braces on both my legs and here's my ankles, and that was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand, but I still can't walk up a stair by myself. I can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you hear my voice, positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, all because of this one word, smile, seeing miracles in life every day. I got to tell you quickly, my 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks ago. She says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile, S-M-I-E-L? I thought about it. Smile sounds the same. Why not? I asked her how come. She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. An 8-year-old. But what was she doing? She was creating the kind of world she wants to live in. Now, create is an amazingly important, powerful word. It stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. And that's really the key to success in life. Rethinking, we call it a shift in perspective. Now, I've been working with people for more than 4 decades. When I begin to work with them, a lot of times, 97.2% of all the people I begin to work with drop the F in shift, and the other stuff happen. You have to be effing careful with your Fs. Shift in perspective, and then what can happen is you will internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever learn. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation will determine the path of your life and the trajectory. Now, before we bring on wonderful Peter Nolan, known to many of you actually because he's been on the show, thank God, a number of times, I want to tell everybody that's new that we do use a lot of 4-letter words. I even use the 4-letter FU word. I do it because of the shock value and it's fun. Now, the 4-letter words that we use, of course, because we live in the world of positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, are love, life, hope, free, grow, gift, play, pray, swim. And the 4-letter word, FU word, is fun. Fun, yes, F-U, capital N, capital N. Now, right away, some people say, hey, Barry Shore, fun is only spelled with 3 letters. Not in our world. The world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant is spelled F-U, capital N, capital N. So after the show, you see your family and friends, you have a twinkle in your eye, a smile on your face, point your finger, say, F-U, everybody. But add right away capital N, capital N. Say, where'd you get that? So I listen to Barry Shore. He wants to teach the world to F you. When you do that, you get their attention. And now you can talk about what we're going to learn today with our wonderful guest, Peter Nolan. So before I bring up Peter, I just want to urge everybody. I do this on every show. Use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now to the rest of your life, consciously and conscientiously. These words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. To harmonize and nurture kindness. Kind is a fabulous word that stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I can't think of anybody that to me inspires noble deeds that I want to share with you more than a good friend and a remarkably successful person in every aspect of life. None other than wonderful Peter Nolan. Peter, please say hello to 375,819 people around the world.
820 people, including you, Barry. Good to see you.
And he's a wit. That's why I like him. I'm going to say 3 things about Peter, and then we're just going to jump in and ask some questions because time is short and his is so valuable and such, and I greatly appreciate it. 3 points I want to make about Peter in this order. Number 1, he is a remarkably dedicated family man. Loving wife, children, friends, the essence of what really makes up a successful human being. In addition to that, he works very hard, very smart, and he has been successful in business, earning lots of money, not just for himself, but even more importantly, for other people. When you earn money for other people, guess what happens? You build trust. And when you do that and you do it well, Now you can do something else. He was able to utilize his own money, his family office, and that of other investors, and acquire many businesses throughout the country in many different fields, and be able to therefore give over information that will be of benefit to people that all you're listening, because he's dealing with real bottom line issues, not just money, but how do you deal with things when the government comes in and mandates stuff? And what do you do about that? And things happen overnight. So, Peter, I'm just going to jump in and say again, first of all, a huge thank you. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to say F you to you. Capital N, capital N. And number three, let's just talk about what's on everybody's mind. This is the year 2024. Every 4 years, there's a presidential election in the United States of America, and every one is consequential. It may be that this one, 2024, is one of the more consequential ones we've had in over half a century, maybe even longer, because we don't know who one of the candidates will be, meaning from the Democratic Party. It seems right now who the Republican will be, and the antipathy for that particular person and everything that he stands for is great. And so there's a battle royale going on. But I want to mention the three issues that I think are on everybody's mind, no matter what part of the economy you're in. And those are what I call the three E's: energy, education, and enforcement. So I'll explain what enforcement means. Enforcement means enforcing the laws of the United States of America. In other words, build the wall or close the border. Yeah, those are great lines, but we have laws on the books. All you have to do is enforce the laws on the books, and we can stop the flow. Well, I will call it an invasion. You can call whatever you want. It's an invasion, and it's purposeful, and it's designed for election issues, keeping people in power. But I want to jump to the first one, which is energy. And I'd like to get your take on energy, because right now, the United States went from, at the time when Mr. Trump was president, as a exporter of energy to the world and having some of the lowest energy costs in our history, to being a net importer. And I'm happy to say at the moment that our costs have come down, but are still higher than they could be. So I'd like to get your take on what energy looks like potentially in the next 4 years, no matter who is going to be living in the White House, and what the mandate of Congress will be.
Well, thanks, Barry. I think it's really hard to know exactly what's going to happen with energy supply in the next 4 years. Certainly, the position of the Democrats is the elimination of fossil fuels. So things that would basically increase the availability of petroleum-based energy or natural gas-based energy, right? They're going to. There's a desire, for example, to ban gas stoves, gas appliances in households. So I think the election will matter in that front, because I think that if Trump wins, there'll be less pressure to immediately eliminate all fossil fuels. And I think that if Biden wins, and I think it's, unless something happens to him, I think he'll be the nominee of the Democrats. So I think it'll be a Trump-Biden rematch. And again, I'm not a political expert, but there's going to be a big push towards alternative fuels, and part of the strategy is to eliminate access, if you will, to fossil fuels. So whether it's closing pipelines or eliminating drilling, et cetera. And I think you'll probably see, if Biden wins and the Democrats continue to control the Senate and even control the House, I think you'll see probably a higher level of activism against fossil fuels. Are your energy prices going to go down? I don't think so. I think it'll be probably more inflationary if Biden wins on energy. And if Trump wins, probably it'll be sort of less inflationary, but I don't see any profound change.
So I'm going to throw in one wild card here, and thank you very much for articulating that, because you're right. That's the fourth E, elimination of fossil fuels, and what bothers me personally, because I'm a big fan of energy, and if it's green or if it's fossil, I don't care where it is, as long as it's cheap and effective. That's all I care about. And what doesn't happen with activists is they don't allow the building of what we call small nuclear reactors, not large, not giant, but small nuclear reactors,
Right.
which could literally change the whole dynamic of energy delivery in the United States of America. And the way we goes the world.
Right. Yeah, no, I think, look, there's been, I see it a little bit of a bipolar response from people that are worried about climate change, is that they want to eliminate fossil fuels, but they also want to eliminate nuclear power, whether it's large or small. And I would think that if this is an existential threat, that you can overcome that by saying, okay, well, then we'll take the risk. I mean, there's risk associated with a gas plant, and there's risk associated with a large or small nuclear facility. But, if it's really an existential threat, I would think you would become more embracing of nuclear. And there seems to be a little bit of a sentiment change on all fronts about nuclear power. I know in my state of California, they've been shutting down nuclear power. And the alternative is that solar doesn't fill the Gulf. So either you're burning more fossil fuel on your gas powered generators, or you're importing fuel from Arizona and New Mexico and other Wyoming, and a significant portion of that is either coal or oil based. So I don't know. We'll see. California usually leads the country in bad ideas. And it seems to me that there's really, things seem to be less strident. But again, I think if Biden wins, there will be a real reinvigoration of the anti-fossil fuel lobby.
So that's one of the dynamics of, we'll call it Trump Biden just for the moment, between these two truly different viewpoints of America. And I want to throw in now this other E that I mentioned, which is education, because there are, again, more than two, but we'll use the two big ones that are opposing each other, and they're both massive. And one of them is the teachers union, or teachers unions, which have been inflaming their constituents, the teachers, not the parents, not the students. Used to be, when I was growing up, that you thought of a teacher as an ally to both parents and students. And yet today, it seems to be that the teachers are not aligned other than with their own unique process of supporting teachers. And parents may be damned and students may be damned. Oh yeah, we'll take care of them as an afterthought. But in terms of education, on the, for want of a better term, the Republican side, and there is some Democrats also that are pushing this, is the ability to say, something, there is a certain amount of money, let's call it $8,000 per student, that the federal government is investing every year for millions and millions of students. Let's give that to the parents and let the parents decide. So education is a battlefront, a battleground. And I think it's a tremendous potential shift. Let's even say that if Trump were to be elected, that would be his stand. Now, he may do it just to spite the teachers union, but again, it may be the best thing for children to have parents make the decision rather than continuing the process at the moment. So I just want to get your take, because let's be blunt. You have kids, they went to school, they probably went to, I'm assuming they went to private schools, I don't know. But education is the backbone, the foundational edifice for building a country. And if you have indoctrination, which tends to happen now, rather than education, I think that we're in for a very difficult situation over the next generation or two. So I'm asking you,
Yeah.
education.
Well, I think that the fight it's over money, right? It's really, I think that and look, there's teachers which I look at differently than their unions. I know a lot of teachers and they're good people and they care about their kids and they want to do the right thing. And I think that the issue that I see is that in the private sector, if for some reason you have less funds available to your business, then you start to look at your cost structure and you try to adjust your cost to the funds. And I think that there's really a desire not to do that on the public education side. And so the argument made to people who would keep their kids in the public school system is that it's going to basically take funds away from your educational activity, right? The school you'll go to will have less money, the class sizes will get larger, there'll be less teachers, there'll be less special programs, etc. And they don't really think, well, if all of a sudden you had, for example, a voucher program and a certain percentage of their kids migrated to a non-public school, they're not thinking then we've got to reduce our overall overhead to adjust to the new reality. And so I think that's a big part of the battle. And I don't know. The teachers unions are very, very strong, and they're probably one of the strongest unions in the country. And I don't see big changes afoot. It's going to have to happen on a state level, and we'll see. And for people where they have a failing school system, where there's almost no point to send your child to school because it's just too disruptive, or the teachers don't care. I've never understood why there's not the political will to give people some sort of exit and an alternative. One of the reasons, as a capitalist, one of the great things about capitalism is competition. And if someone has a better product, the person that has the inferior product will tend to lose share. And in government, that's not the case, whether it be your local DMV or whether it be your schools.
So I think you just hit upon the open wound and the nub of the issue, and that is competition. Both, like you said, in government, and education has become quasi-governmental. Now, on that high note, we're going to go for just a quick break. We have sponsors that love the show, and we only have sponsors that we select. So we urge you to consider patronizing them. We'll be right back with more Peter Nolan after this brief break. Don't go away.
What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card, and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. Our cup runneth over with good. His name is Peter Nolan, and he, thank God, is with us 2 or 3 times a year, giving us his insights because he is a successful business person that puts his money into businesses that employ real people in many different sectors, many different states, and he understands what it means to be able to really bring benefit to every aspect of a business. The business has to make money so it can support people doing business, giving services. And in today's environment, it becomes more and more difficult. So you said about this wonderful C word, competition. Well, the essence of business is competition, isn't it, Peter? And you mentioned also another C word, which is California, your state. So I'm just going to jump right in and talk about what happened recently. And I just heard about it the other day, that California either is about to enact or about to have signed a mandatory $20 per hour minimum wage. Now, obviously, you're aware of it because you live in California, but even more aware of it because I know of at least one business that you own that is headquartered in California. It's a small chain of pizzerias, like I don't call it pizza shops, and sort of more on the high end. You know, it's artisan pizza. And how does that affect the real issue of doing business, not just in the state of California, because as you mentioned, what happens in California gets noticed by every other state in the union. What does that mean for your business or businesses in California and other places?
Well, you know, look, it's what's happened, and it affects us indirectly. Hang on a second, I'm just going to turn my phone down. It affects us indirectly. So for larger chains, there is a mandatory $20 an hour minimum wage. My chain that we have, which is in the pizza business, is not big enough to be captured by that legislation. But in order to be competitive in the marketplace, if McDonald's, for example, has to pay $20 an hour, then you've got to match that. And that sounds great, right? You know, so employees have more money. It's funny. I actually looked it up today because I was saying, well, I forgot what the federal minimum wage is. It's $7.25.
Wait a minute. Let's laugh together. It's $7 and what, 75 cents, you said?
25. Actually,
$7.25.
For tipped workers, people that receive tips as part of their job, it's $2.13. But you have to clear that $7.25, including the tips, or your employer has to fill up the difference. So look, it sounds great, right? You know, and the political class likes to stand up and say, look, you know, we're giving you a living wage. And I remember there was the fight for $15 an hour, and now it's 20. The business challenge is that, well, what do? It's not as though these companies are sitting on a ton of excess profits and therefore they can just take it out of their income. Doesn't really work that way. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to see continued inflationary pricing as a result of your input costs. So I see two outcomes. One is that it's going to really put a damper on, for example, the restaurant industry. I was talking to a restaurant executive literally yesterday, and they were saying that there's a number of new chains and new high growth chains that won't go into California because it's too difficult to operate in that market. So it's going to decrease innovation, and ultimately, I predict that in the not too distant future, it'll result in the elimination of jobs. You're going to see AI and you're going to see robotics take over more and more, service jobs in places like restaurants, because as the price of labor goes up, the amount you need to invest to basically automate a particular position becomes more and more attractive. And so, you know, who's it hurt? Well, at the end of the day, I think it really puts pressure on the low end worker, not necessarily in the restaurant industry, but if someone doesn't make a lot of money and they have to go into get a meal in a fast food place, a lot of people do, that the prices are just going to become more and more exorbitant. And we're seeing this all over, but in my state, it's especially profound, where, you know, the price of everything, whether it's someone getting a cup of coffee or a smoothie or a lunch, it's just really astounding how much the price has increased. And I don't see any end in sight just because of this wage issue. You know, I think most restaurant companies, for example, are looking at how do we increase prices to offset the increased labor cost. I think that there's this. The political class has this notion that business people are making excess profits, and it's relatively simple. And they're making too much money, so what we have to do is reallocate that money from the owner of a business to the workers. I think Lenin said something to that effect.
He did.
And so,
and Stalin kept it going.
Right. And so, you know, yeah, you can say, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? That the good intention is to give people a living wage. The problem is that, you know, we've really seen, as a result of that, you've seen less jobs and you see higher prices. And so your notional wage, your nominal wage, only matters in a relative sense. It's what can you buy for the wage you make. And so there's just, you know, the California is just making it a real challenge, and it's going to be interesting.
So you've used another E word. You use elimination of fossil fuels, which is the calling card of the Democratic Party. Let's be blunt. When this is not a political show today, but that's the calling card of the Democratic Party. They're not ashamed to say it. That is their intention: elimination of fossil fuels. Now you're talking about, with, let's say, California specifically, the ability to mandate any price. In this case, we're calling it $20 minimum wage. There used to be a wonderful talk show host named Rush Limbaugh, may he rest in heaven well, who used to make fun of that many years ago. He said, wait, why 20? Why not 25? Why not 30? Hello? If you're going to give, come on, let's be generous. So, because the point is that you said it causes the E. It causes the elimination of jobs. And if you really want to give a living wage, then you're not doing that, because all the other factors that impinge upon pricing and the ability for a human being to buy goods and services, necessary ones. We're not talking about luxuries in the moment. We're talking about necessary. Anything from gasoline to eggs to bread. And so, well, those prices keep rising. So if you're making $20 an hour, but it costs you $25 to live, that's not smart. And therefore, the second E is coming in. And as I mentioned previously, and you just hit on it, part of the education system, and why I am a big fan of vouchers, is because there is a war. It's not just a battle, it's a war in the world of education, where even young people, I'm talking about literally K through 12, are being oriented to thinking, like you just said, capitalism is not the best way for humans to live. It doesn't help you. It's not good. Trust us and we will help you. And the only way you can help that is through government mandate, which, by the way, you and I know, because we live history and we study history. As you said, whether it's Lenin, Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro, and I'm sorry to say, many in America today are enemies.
Yeah, if you just watch a movie or watch a TV show, the evil person's never a teacher. It's always a business person. I mean, you know, that's
right.
That's the villain of, and that's gone on my entire life, right? You know, it's you don't have like a teacher turn into an evil killer, but you certainly do get the business person that's out to destroy the world and
well, at least enslave everybody. You know, you work for me.
Look, one of the things that I tell students, and I get a lot of blank looks on their face because it's something I don't think they hear. You know, business, no matter what. Look, you watch Jeff Bezos, right? He's let's say you're Elon Musk, they're the richest men in the world, and they fly around in their private jets, and they're on yachts, and they may have beautiful new girlfriends or whatever, and it all seems easy. But the truth is that every business is, a knife fight. And there's always someone that wakes up and wants to destroy your business. And I don't think that students, for example, I don't think politicians, for example, really understand how difficult it is to run a business, how every day is a challenge. And you have competitive challenges, you have legal challenges, you have governmental challenges, you have people challenges. And it's not as though you start a business or own a business and it's like a monopoly and the money just comes in and you don't have to do much and you don't have to work very hard. It's extraordinarily hard. And a lot of the people that you see that have been extremely successful, they've reached a certain point where they've been successful. But for every one of those people, there are tens of thousands of failures. And so, most businesses struggle. Most businesses struggle. And even larger businesses, it's a struggle. You look at this week or this last week, Boeing had some issues with one of their 737s. A door fell off in flight. That's just a nightmare on every dimension. It's a nightmare from litigation. It's a nightmare reputationally. It's a nightmare competitively. It's a nightmare from a regulatory environment. I mean, they're not having a good time. And of course, they didn't do it intentionally, but it doesn't matter. And that's a big, extraordinarily successful company in the United States. And no one feels sorry for them, but everyone thinks it's easy, and it just isn't. It's really, I always tell people, I've kind of got this list of what makes a great CEO. And it's a weird list. Like my number one on my list is a great CEO thinks like an owner. They don't think like an employee. Another item on my list is a great CEO is never happy. They're never satisfied. They're never satisfied. They never go, this is great. We're just, how in the movies, the executives go to the corner of the big office of the boss and they have a glass of scotch from a bar. And in my career, 42 years of doing this, I've never seen that. I've never seen anyone have a drink.
Because it's not real. It doesn't, like you just said, it's not true.
Right. And anyways, so that's, when I look at it, it's just, I think that there's just this real disconnect from reality about how hard it is to execute on any business.
I'm going to throw in something here. Again, this is not a political show. By the same token, one of the reasons that I think people are attracted at all to Donald Trump is because he was in business. Now, whether you say he was successful or not, and all the shenanigans, leave aside that. But he was out there in the knife fight every day. He knows what it means to be in the trenches. And all of his opponents, and I mean all, underscore, as far as I've been able to see, are not. They come from what you call the political class. And by definition, many of these people, the names roll off the tongue, and that have been around in Congress for decades. They've never been in the private sector. They don't know what it means to run a business. They don't know how to read a balance sheet. They don't understand where money comes from. They think it's their money. And this is a problem that has become exacerbated over the past generation or so because we've allowed it to. And because the United States has been so successful, the most successful country in the history of the world. Now, we are feeling some of that today because of DEI. I prefer calling it DIE. And it really does cause problems. By the way, Boeing is now under the gun because part of their processes in terms of building this most amazing product called an airplane, has been woke in the process. There's a lot of interesting dilemmas that are there. I'd like to ask you one other. So two of the on your list for a CEO and a successful CEO: think like an owner, never be satisfied. What's the third one? Just one more.
The third one's a weird one. You have to have a overwhelming drive really to make money. So, there's a famous movie called Wall Street with Michael Douglas, and there was a character called Gordon Gekko. You may have seen the movie. This is a long time ago, and he gave a speech about how greed is good. I think the speech goes it's a famous movie speech. Greed clarifies it,
right?
And that movie further vilified business people because they're greedy, right? You always hear about evil, corrosive, capitalist, greedy guys. But the truth is that in my experience, when having known, if I've known one CEO, I've met 1,000. And what I find is that one of the common characteristics of successful CEOs is they have this overwhelming desire to be successful. And to be successful is usually, the way you score
measure
it, way you measure it or score it is by wealth creation. And what's great about our system is that Elon Musk can be successful and create a lot of wealth, but he also offers an opportunity for the rest of us to invest alongside him and go for that ride, which can be a very good ride. Same thing is true of someone like a Jeff Bezos with Amazon. And there's a whole list. And so what I find is that there's certain people that have that drive. I mean, everyone wants. You started out your show. You want to be
happier, healthier, and wealthier.
Healthy and wealthier, right? Everyone wants it, but very, very tiny portion of society wants it and is willing to sacrifice what it takes to get it and understands how to do it. And when you find that package, when you find someone that thinks like an owner, someone who's never satisfied, and someone that really wants to create wealth and is willing to do what it takes, and I'm talking about legally, ethically. I'm not talking about someone that goes and robs banks to do so. Those are the characteristics that I see that make a great CEO, and they have to have a multitude of other characteristics. They have to be a good judge of people. Okay, wait a
minute. On that high note of judging people well, we're going to go to a break because we have judged these people that sponsor our show to be worthy of your attention. So we'll be right back with this brief message. Don't go away. There's more Peter Nolan on the other side of this. Be right back after this brief message. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey, everybody. You know me, Barry Shore, and you know my story. Standing up in the morning, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. That night, being in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed. Talk about a change of life. I was faced with lots of issues, difficulties, paths forward, if there was to be one. And I'm here to tell you that finding advice from professional people makes all the difference, certainly in my life. And I would urge everybody to consider doing so in your life. And if you've ever had the opportunity to find someone or some two people that are really matched up with you, then you know it makes a difference. I urge you to consider using BetterHelp. BetterHelp, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, so it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill in a brief questionnaire, I've done it, to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. This is your opportunity to make a difference and become the best you possible. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/joy of living today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/joy of living. BetterHelp, HELP.com/joy of living. Best wishes. Bye now. Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe good-looking, so always looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. We have Peter Nolan here. Peter is what I call the font of wisdom, and not the baptismal font. He did that many years ago himself, but now he's the font of wisdom and sharing with us some of the aspects of true dynamic beings that move an economy, move the United States of America, again, the greatest engine of wealth and benefit in the history of the world. Because as you mentioned perfectly, Peter, whether it's an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, the easy ones to point to, they didn't just create enormous wealth for themselves. By definition, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, everything they did, yes, of course they did very well. Charlie Munger says, I set out to be rich. He says, I just passed myself. I did better than I thought. But in doing so, they helped so many other people. That's the genius of the capitalist system. I'm going to get a little arcane for the moment because we only have once in a while to be with you. And maybe we'll visit this again in another few months. I want to talk about something that scares me. It's called the wealth tax. And we don't have much time, just a few minutes here. I'll set it up, and if I'm wrong, you please share it with people and just give me, the right direction. But according to the way I'm understanding something called the wealth tax is that right now, people in the United States of America, specifically, most other countries that are capitalist oriented, are taxed on their income, whether it's passive or ongoing and such, a check or anything like that. A wealth tax presumes that you have made X, even though you didn't realize it yet. You've not realized your gain. The government, and this is the government wants to tax you on unrealized gain. Now, of course, it's just a small amount, and it's only for the uber rich. But as we all know, as it starts, it never finishes there. So I'd like to, and it's being proposed, of course, in your state, right, Peter, no longer my state, your state, California. I'd like to get first of all, your gut impression as a taxpayer, as a businessman, as an owner of assets. Is the wealth tax in any way whatsoever beneficial to people, to the country?
Well, a wealth tax is it's a dumb idea. It's moronic. Why? Because people that are wealthy can move. When Europe used to have wealth taxes, and literally, I was on the board of Adidas, and the largest shareholder and the CEO used to helicopter in to Germany from Switzerland every day to avoid, the wealth tax. So, I've seen in California, I've seen a lot, one of the things that's gone on with California, with the budget is California's budget's particularly dependent on high income earners. I think that 1% of the population pays like half the tax revenue for the state, or something like that. And a wealth tax, which has been proposed in California, would continue the outmigration of wealth creators. And a wealth tax is you can have a farm, and you may not have any liquidity, you may not have any cash out of it, but a wealth tax then taxes you on the value of your holdings. So it's not your income, it's just taxing you on your assets. And in a lot of instances, you've already paid tax on those assets one way or another. So I think it's a really, really bad idea. And the reality is that I think France experimented with the wealth tax. It never ever generates what people think it will in theory. You know, when states or even the federal government, when they calculate expected revenues from a tax, they assume that there's no change in conduct. And you know, I know an extremely wealthy individual who, California now has almost 14 and change percent top end income tax, and this guy moved to Nevada. He just said, "I'm done. I'm out." He still has his business, and his business is very prevalent in California. He's just not here anymore, and now California doesn't get 14% of his income; they get zero. And that's what we're seeing with the California budget is that we've had an outmigration of wealth creators, taxpayers, to places like Florida, Texas, Nevada, etc., Wyoming. And it's having an impact on the budget. And I think that I will give Gavin Newsom some credit where he's starting at least to notice that. Now, what we're going to do about it, probably not much. Just continue to raise taxes on individuals. I was with a bunch of people the other day, and they were saying, they wouldn't be surprised to see a 20% tax because, again, there's this. They equate people that have been successful, people that create value, with that they're exploiting workers, or that they shouldn't have it, that they're ill-gotten gains. And the result of that is that there's like, well, yeah, let's see, the wealth tax has been proposed. I think it's on people that have over $1 billion. Well, that's almost no one. So most people go, okay, if you want to take money away from a billionaire, I'm fine with it. But it just doesn't end there. And it doesn't work, and it doesn't end there. So again, I think California could really, I love this state, but it is an extraordinarily difficult place to do business. And it's an extraordinarily difficult place from a tax point of view. And literally not a week goes by when people ask me, well, when are you going to move? When are you going to move? And, if it wasn't for the fact that my family and my kids are here, I definitely, it can reach a point. What's the old saying? You keep turning up the heat on the frog in the pot and in the water, and then all of a sudden you wake up.
The frog is in. It can't go anywhere, Peter.
It's dead.
You're right. It's been boiled.
Yeah.
Let's be blunt. When taxes, which in and of itself is a difficult word, when taxes are, in quotation marks, somewhat equitable, people grin and bear it. When they become confiscatory, then the good people will move. Now, the good news is in the United States of America, you don't need a visa to move to another state, especially right. These days where there are states with, like Nevada, Texas, Wyoming, Florida, where they welcome you to come because there's no state income tax and such, and they're accommodating, and they're also pleasant places to live. The difficulty with California is that twofold. Number one, it has a supermajority in the legislature, so they can do anything they want, even when, like you said, dumb ideas. But you can't reason with people who not just think, they believe. And this is what's being taught in schools. I'm bringing this up again because I think education is a foundational aspect of where the country is going. That people are being taught that if someone is very successful, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, the Peter Nolan, by definition, you only got that way because you are an oppressor. You must have squeezed other people. You must have taken advantage of other people, as opposed to thinking like you and I do, and how we're raised, and how we teach our children, and how we live in our communities and our friends and family, that all of the rising tide rises all boats. That was John F. Kennedy, a beautiful Democrat that nobody would recognize today.
No, we've really gotten away from it, and I think it's what's happened is that there's a generation doesn't remember or doesn't know about, I guess, socialism and the socialist and communist policies and the impact on a people and on a population and on a country. You look in Argentina, which is fascinating. Argentina had triple-digit inflation. I mean, you literally the Argentinian peso is worthless, and they've had a complete populist revolt against it. People finally woke up, and I think that we have done a real disservice, in my opinion, to our youth, because it seems that we have a tooth fairy economy where things just happen to happen, and there's no effort necessary. And then if someone happens to be successful, they've done something wrong, and therefore you need to punish that. And it can lead to some, look, you hear on the news, if you listen to any of the news shows, this is the most important election of our lifetime. I think you said something to that effect, Barry, and that it may be true, but the fact of the matter is that I am concerned that there is a whole generation of people that just have no comprehension of business and capitalism. And there's just generally such a poor opinion of capitalism, increasingly poor opinion of capitalism among people in our country. And it's pretty frightening, because that can lead to some really bad decisions.
So on that note, which we'll call a high note, one of the reasons people tune in to the Joy of Living podcast is because they know that we emphasize the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant in this show. And we are just honored and privileged that you joined us today, Peter, and give us insights and such. And I have 3 quick questions for you, as I do at the end of each one of our shows. So number 1 question, Peter Nolan, will you come back again?
Only for you, Barry.
Woo! Thank you. I am truly touched. I think he's not just saying that. I mean, you got to know, this is Peter Nolan. His time is very contracted. Number 2 is, and I know the answer, but I'd like to hear it again. You get only 80 seconds. What is your most fervent desire?
Well, as I always tell you, the health and happiness of my family. So that's my most fervent desire. Without that, we have nothing.
And when he says his family, I'm going to extrapolate on that, Peter, because I know you personally. I know you well. He doesn't mean just his family. He means families in the United States of America and its extension, the world. But he really means families everywhere. That's what you really want to have happen. Yeah. And the best way of that is to have good ideas, not bad ideas.
There's a lot of frightening things going on in the world, and I really hope things settle down soon.
Well, one of the ways we're going to do that is we do our 3rd thing, which is to do a hug. And we envelop hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Remember, HUG stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving, because that's what capitalism is about, by the way. You cannot receive willingly unless you're willing to give openly with desire, like you said. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And you've been listening to The Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, and our wonderful guest, Peter Nolan. And in this show, we discuss the 3 fundamentals of life. Number 1, life. Your life has purpose. You live a purpose-driven life. You go mad. You make a difference in the world like Peter does. And number 3 is to unlock the power and the sequence of everyday words and terms like WWW. What a wonderful world when you live it well. And number 2 is smile. Seeing miracles in life every day. Yes, or as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. And as we say, thank you to harmonize and nurture kindness. Because you do that, you create the kind of world you want to live in. Create stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. Like he says, good ideas, not bad ideas, rethinking. And then you'll have a shift in your perspective. Keep that F in place or the other stuff happens. But what happens as a result? you'll be able to internalize, utilize, and leverage the 6 most important words you'll ever know. Choice, not chance, determines your destiny. How you choose to respond in any given situation will determine your pathway and your trajectory of success. Use 4-letter words. Now, the 4-letter words we use: positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant. World is love, life, hope, free, give, pray, play, swim, and tell the world to F you. Capital N, capital N. So a prayer from Peter and Barry is: go forth. Live exuberantly. Spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Peter, don't go away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.